My husband won't stop criticizing my hired nanny, so I told him I'd rather divorce him.
And she's going to marry the nanny. This is just Mrs. Doubtfire.
My husband, John, 40 male, and I, 26 female, hello age gap, have been together for 5 years, married for 3, and have 3 kids ages 3 months, 2, and 4. We met when I was still in college working part-time as a nanny for his friend's family. By the way, this comes from Evening Boat 2674 on the r/OKstorytime subreddit. We crossed paths a few times at my nanny's family functions, say that 5 times fast, and my nanny family gave him my number and encouraged me to go out with him. Initially, I only did it because I didn't want to offend them, but we ended up hitting it off really well. Some weird vibes, but we'd go forward. I accidentally got pregnant with my oldest about a year into seeing him, 3 kinds of birth control, and still got pregnant. What are the chances? Is this a
But we'll continue.
We'll continue. At first, I was devastated because I was just about to graduate and had already been offered an amazing internship in my field. The internship would require me to move across the country, so I was already planning to leave my current job and break up with John so I could pursue my dream job. So my initial plan was to terminate the pregnancy. However, long story short, I ended up staying with John and having my oldest, but under the agreement that I would start working ASAP and John would pay for childcare so I didn't have to be a stay-at-home mom and permanently walk away from my career goals that I had worked very hard towards basically my whole life. As my son was born, I fell instantly in love, and the very few resentments I had about the way things turned out completely disappeared. While I did stay at home with him for the first year because I couldn't stand to leave him for more than a few hours, I was open with John about my plans to find a job in my field as soon as I could, and he was always on board and never expressed any issue with it. John and I got married when my oldest was 1, and John started pushing me to have more kids, but I refused and I felt ready to start working.
Okay. Okay.
I've upgraded my to a
okay.
I ended up getting a really great job offer at the company I'm still working with today. I started looking for nannies and was put in contact with our current nanny, Sarah, 21 female. Conspiracy theory, he ends up with her. He loves nannies.
I'm sticking with Mrs. Doubtfire. No, my conspiracy is he messed with that birth control somehow.
I think
he wants this. I think he's trying to have like a sort of breeder type scenario, which is literally disgusting.
Ooh.
Horrifically disgusting.
But Sarah, 21 female, has honestly been a godsend. She is the sole reason I made it through being apart from my baby, and she does an amazing job. I honestly cannot imagine my life without her. Shortly after I started my job, I accidentally got pregnant again, another birth control baby. And my husband tried to talk me into staying home with the kids after my second was born, but I was too happy with my job. They offered to let me work from home part-time, which worked out perfectly. My husband wanted to cut back Sarah's hours as I would be home a lot more, but I refused because while I'd be able to breastfeed and take care of my newborn, I still wanted her there to help with our rambunctious toddler while I was working. Yeah, the watching the kid while working from home, it does not make any sense whatsoever.
You can't do both of those things.
Literally
It's
zero
impossible.
sense. Our arrangement worked out really well, and I recently did the same with our third baby while Sarah watches the older 2 during the days when I'm working. No birth control mentioned here. We don't know.
I don't think it would have worked even if you had it.
It's hard to have something that is secretly taken from you.
Because all those pills need to be in the right place, and if they're not going to work.
Ouchie. We have a lot in common, her, OP and Sarah do, and I see her as a friend as much as an employee. My kids love her very much and ask about her whenever she isn't there. Since I was also a nanny, I am able to work with her effectively, and I have so much respect and admiration for the job she does with my kids. She's even more patient and hands-on than I ever was with my nanny's family kids. Even though we pay her a lot, I honestly think she's worth even more than that, and I tip her as much as I can. For some reason, my husband does not feel the same way. He is very critical of her, not to her face. He has very little interaction with her, as most days she leaves before he gets home. To me, he is always nitpicking how she does things, like if a few toys get left out in the playroom, if she used too much gas in the car, if she got fast food for the kids instead of cooking a meal, etc. He tells me she is not worth what we're paying her and that she's doing an easy job I was doing for free.
Yo, this guy sucks. Level 7 weenie. This dude sucks.
I think he was able to sink the hooks in while she was still really young, and now there's carryover. Like, she's excusing her. She has the rose-colored glasses, you know, of like, oh, he's the provider, he's the caretaker, the adult in the relationship.
Yeah, right. Because it's like there's an age gap, but she was real young. He could be like
her father,
up and
middle school father, but father nonetheless. Father nonetheless. We've seen it before. Now, this irritates me like nothing else, because while yes, I don't find looking after my kids particularly difficult, I wouldn't call it remotely easy. And it's much different when it comes to dedicating most of your free time. And Sarah goes above and beyond to make sure my kids are safe, happy, and entertained every day, and even does some preschooling with them. Last week, my husband confronted me with some of the footage from our security cameras of Sarah neglecting the kids.
Bum, bum,
What kind of neglect are we looking at here, ladies and gentlemen?
I'm going to go out on a limb and say none, and it was just her doing her job.
Well, the whole thing was completely ridiculous. There was one video where she left my 2-year-old in her high chair for 5 minutes while taking my 4-year-old to the bathroom 3 feet away. Unacceptable?
Hey, that chair is pretty high up.
You should have split yourself apart like a clone in a video game. Had one person, or you know, at a bare minimum, if we're just going to talk like the bare necessities, grow long multi-arms like Michael Jordan in Space Jam.
Yeah.
And be, you know, helping this kid over here with the bathroom, and then this kid over here with the high chair.
I see nothing wrong with that whatsoever.
That's what you need to do. You just make it happen.
And if you really were a good nanny, that's what you would do.
That's what you would do. Become a cartoon character with elongated rubber arms. It's not that hard.
Become animated Michael Jordan. Please and thank you.
There was one where she let them stay up past bedtime to finish a movie while she worked on schoolwork. All relatively innocuous things like that I couldn't care less about. The worst of it was a video of her texting on her phone for like 30 minutes while my kids were playing, which we have asked her to not be on the phone while playing with the kids. But even though she technically did something wrong, she's a human being, not going to be perfect 100% of the time. Once he was done showing me, I asked them, is this the neglect in the room with us right now? Ooh.
Is the neglect in the room with us now?
Yeah, like, is it like, hey, are we watching tapes instead of neglect, but instead of our children, instead of watching and therefore neglecting children? The irony.
He got it.
The irony. And that made him really mad. Big Daddy mad. He accused me of not caring about our children's well-being, because if I did, I would agree with him that we need to fire her.
For what? Looking at her phone once while she takes care of both of your kids at the same time?
Where's the rubber arms?
Yeah.
You haven't genetically modified herself to figure out rubber arms.
Look, if our nanny's not willing to asexually reproduce, I don't want her.
What are we talking about? Go the extra mile. So I told him we're firing her over my dead body.
Oh, the twists and turns.
And if it wasn't for her, our children would actually be neglected because we both work full time.
Doy.
Tell him, OP. He told me that Sarah was trying to take over my role as mother in my children's eyes, and she was coming between me and our family. And if I cared about our family, then I would want to fire her too.
He just wants to control this woman.
The husband said that I would want to fire her too. I laugh in his face. You're a joke, okay? And I told him I would rather divorce him and pay for her myself than fire her and quit my job. OP standing on business.
He's like, I'll marry the nanny.
I'll marry the nanny. I'll get married to her. What are we talking about? He stormed out and hasn't spoken to me since. Am I the a-hole? We have an edit coming up, but let's talk, Mr. Big D.
I mean, honestly, the best situation is that you clearly leave this creepy man who is like trying to lock you down as some sort of like a baby factory.
Yep.
That just stays at home and raises the children with no agency or autonomy in their own life. And you take the nanny with you.
Yes. It's unclear how financially it seems like OP's doing pretty good. I think OP should do the digging to verify what we suspect, because the cracks are starting to show. I think he's starting to crack because he wanted this, you know, this like perfect vision of him controlling and making her this like magical trad wife, stay-at-home mom. And it's been so long now, it's been years, that he's starting to like lose his ability to like hold it in.
Yeah.
So I think let him crash out and confirm what we are hypothesizing.
I bet you that we find out that he's had some sort of like an infatuation with like the need to have. First of all, he definitely messed with the birth control. You don't go on 3 forms of birth control and get pregnant every time. That guy was messing with the birth control.
Yeah.
So automatically, that's super messed up.
Yep.
And yeah, this guy probably looks at her more as a piece of property than actually like a wife that he loves and respects and cares for.
That's what it's seeming like to me. And he's been able to hide it. And again, I think there's maybe some carryover. A lot of guessing, a lot of inferring, but I'm inferring that it's, she met him when she was really young and that's kind of carried over. But now I think she's getting wise to his games, to his acts. Shall we see what happens in the edit?
Please.
Thank you so much, everyone who has offered advice and support. I'm trying to read over everyone's comments and process everything. Honestly, I thought this was just an annoying ongoing argument between myself and my husband about our nanny, but you all have opened my eyes to a much deeper issue.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I wonder what it is.
Depending on which form of birth control, it could either be a deep implant in the arm or a deep implant in the uterus.
Dude.
But the issue is there.
Firstly, I want to say I'm a bit worried it came across like I resent getting pregnant or having kids because I really don't. I love my kids more than anything, and I would not trade them for the life I wanted before or choose my job over them if it ultimately came to that. I do stress about the accidental pregnancies a lot because it makes me feel out of control of my own life and body, but I hope that doesn't come across as me having regrets over them. That is absolutely the most fair thing in the world. Of course, it's like if I mysteriously keep having these babies with like all these forms of birth control, of course you would feel out of control of your body, and that of course that doesn't mean that you don't love your children any less.
Yeah.
The last thing I want is for people to think my kids are a burden who have ruined my life because they are a gift and have brought more love to my life than I knew I was capable of. I really don't feel trapped by them or anything like that. By the way, if you never want to feel trapped, then just tap our profile and join our lives every weekday at 3 p.m. PST, where I promise you will feel freer than you ever have in your life.
That's right.
That's a guarantee.
Literally the feeling of freedom.
A legal guarantee.
That's what we are.
Yes. Now, on that note, however, a lot of people have pointed out the possibility of my husband tampering with my birth control.
There it is.
This has me really shaken up. I'm not going to lie. The scariest thing about this is that he's a medical professional and he started writing my scripts for birth control after we got married.
That man messed with your birth control.
What? He was the one who prescribed it to you? That's gotta be a felony, right? Oh, I hope he loses everything because of this.
Yes.
Dude.
So,
my God.
He often recommends and prescribes me supplements for things for my health. He also convinced me that IUDs were dangerous and ineffective. Coinky-dinky, I think not. And that it's not uncommon to get pregnant on birth control if you're extremely fertile. I don't even want to think about the implications of him having messed with something to get me pregnant. I trust him a lot with medical decisions and opinions. And while I know he's not as vigilant about birth control as I am, as I didn't even consider the chance he was actively sabotaging it. Not really sure where to go from here or how to investigate this further. Many of you were concerned about having an emergency fund / safety plan, and I do keep my finances separate from his, thank God. And luckily, I make good money, so that answers that question.
Yay.
And I could leave if I really wanted to. There we go. Okay, so we're doing pretty good there. Got that question answered. Thank you again to everyone who commented. I will try to make an update for those who asked.
I'll look if there's an update.
And we're going to look if there's an update. But so far, she didn't.
I feel like I've got a beat on exactly who this guy is.
Yes.
He is the alpha male, sort of like primal human, like Andrew Tate,
Ooga
like
booga.
is his Jesus.
Yes.
And he's like probably just delusional, like, yeah, I'm like a alpha male, so like it's my prerogative to like make sure that my children have healthy genes, and I saw you and I knew I wanted your genes to be involved with my children, so it's within my right to not allow you to have birth control because eventually you were gonna just realize that you wanted to be a mother anyway. So it's my ability to like just make that decision for you when you're 19.
I'm looking at the post right now.
14-year gap.
There is no update. It's just the comments, and everyone is like, OP, what? Do you not see the red flags here?
Yeah.
Yeah, there is unfortunately no update. I don't know.
That's all we got.
Yeah.
Okay.